are going to be live on the oh, we are now.
When it stops flashing.
Yes, I know that.
Which is now. Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Last week we had to delay the presentation of the Ashburton Event Centre, so we're doing that this morning. I'd like to welcome everybody online and also welcome Jim Lister and Roger Farr this morning, and they're going to, Roger, do you want to kick off?
Thank you. My apologies for the delay in bringing the report to you. Kidney stones don't understand meeting schedules. So yeah, just in regards to the event centre for the last 6 months, we really did start to see the light at the end of the tunnel after the basically getting through that COVID period and kicking into the beginning of the last financial year. It's been a struggle, I won't deny that, but we have come through in a fairly good way. Financially, we're still fairly strong. There's been difficulties along the way, but yeah, it's certainly starting to look as though we're turning a corner, and you know, things are starting to pick up again. There's touring events at the moment are very slow. There's not a lot of them around, which is understandable. I think a lot of the promoters are still fairly risk adverse and steering away from, dare I say it, the regional areas. They're still going to the main city centres, but yeah, the regional venues seem to be still off the list. We are talking to them, but yeah, we do understand that, you know, they're still fairly risk adverse as far as wanting to come to the regions. So yeah, so October, November, December period, it did start to pick up quite considerably. A lot of it was due to delayed events from the COVID period. Most of them rescheduled for late last year. It did make it an incredibly busy period, which isn't always a good thing because there's so much money, only so much money people can afford to go to events. So we ended up with 21 ticket events in that last 6 months of the year, which is quite considerable. And from that, there was 8,273 tickets sold, which works out a rough average of 79% for each event, which is pretty good. It's probably not where you would like to see it. You know, we were sitting pre-COVID up around that 83%. So it has come back a wee bit, but 79 I think is probably quite acceptable considering the number of events and the feeling in the community at that time. There was still a lot of people a wee bit worried about coming into groups, you know, mass gatherings, that sort of thing due to COVID. So it's 79%. I think it's still a very good outcome. So patron expenditure I thought was quite considerable considering the, you know, the financial situation at the moment. There's $397,000 spent on tickets to events at the event centre, and we're only one part of the entertainment package in Ashburton. So you know, it's quite a considerable amount of money I feel for, you know, for the community to be spending on entertainment, and I think it does prove that, you know, even in difficult times, people still want to be entertained, and you know, they're still quite happy to pay the money to come out. And there's also a lot of competition out there at the moment. Again, you know, not just us, but you know, you probably have noticed a lot of the touring companies are putting on massive festivals, massive concerts. The market's just been flooded. So you know, we're competing in a very competitive market as far as trying to attract that dollar. So it's good to see that the community is supporting, you know, those local events that are coming through. I think probably the highlight of the period was finally being able to present Superstar. It was a very long road and exhausting, but being able to get that on stage was, you know, bloody good. It was a great production in the end, and you know, I take my hat off to the cast and crew that stuck through, you know, 18 months basically from start to finish. We did lose a few along the way, but it certainly didn't affect the production at all. And you know, I take my likes of Joe Castello and Julia Bell, who, you know, part of the production team. They were great to work with, and you know, overall the production probably exceeded expectations in the end. As you know, with the whole COVID thing, you were always worried about how it was going to turn out and whether it was actually going to get to the stage. But yeah, no, and also Variety Theatre Ashburton. You know, I think the partnership we have with them and putting those productions on, we couldn't do it without them to start with. And you know, the financial success from that production for both organisations was exceptional. That you know, that money has helped carry us through, you know, what has been a difficult financial period. So yeah, big ups to those guys. So overall for Superstar, you know, there was 2,655 tickets sold to seven performances. So it was very well supported again by the community, and it's probably a show that doesn't appeal to everyone, but it's yeah, it was great to see the numbers turn out. Technical upgrade, it's been on the books probably for 3 years, and again the dreaded C word has caused major interruptions with that. You know, from a financial point of view, it just hasn't been viable, so it has been put on the back burner. It certainly hasn't been forgotten, and it's something that is very much needed. We're 15 years old now, and as everyone knows, technology changes very fast. And I've said all along, the last thing I want to see is the event centre get too far behind, where it's just far too much expense to, you know, to get back up to speed. So it's been gradually, you know, my goal has been to gradually keep improving as we, you know, go through the years. We have probably slipped back a wee bit at the moment, and there is a real focus at the moment on getting back up to that level where, you know, a conference or anyone coming from out of town recognises that we have got the facilities here to do, you know, the likes of online streaming and that sort of thing now. And that's probably one of the big things that we've achieved in the last 12 months is putting the system in place now that where we can do online streaming, basically the same system that you're using here. And, you know, for a conference coming through now, we've got more confidence in being able to supply that sort of thing. We did used to do it through a bit of a number 8 wire method previous, but again, it's trying to keep that professionalism within the organisation and, you know, supplying for the client. What else have we done? So maintenance was another big thing that was deferred. We have been chipping away at that again. Unfortunately, pigeons are back on the menu, and it's getting serious. I've probably just spent the best part of $7,000 or $8,000 having ourselves and Bradfords come in to clean the roof completely down again. This is an ongoing issue now that, you know, we're employing a guy monthly to maintain the pigeons. I'll never say we'll get rid of them, but, you know, just to try and maintain levels. But it's starting to be a real financial cost to the organisation, just trying to maintain some level of cleanliness from a health perspective. And there was something like 600 kg, over half a tonne of pigeon poo taken down off the roof. And because of the height of the complex, it's not an easy job. You know, it involves cranes, harnesses, all sorts of bits and pieces to make it happen. So I guess the question is at the moment was, you know, does the council have any systems in place, or is it looking at anything at the moment for the new civic building? We've tried everything, and we haven't come up with a solution. So if there's anything out there that looks promising or is possible, I'd love to hear about it. And, you know, even is there a policy that the council has to maintain pigeons or colonies within the district or within the CBD anyway? We're not the only organisation that's suffering. You know, there's a lot of businesses in town with the same issue.
Roger, would you like questions on the way, or would you like us to wait till the end of your presentation? What would you prefer?
Just at the end will be fine.
Okay, because we've got 2 people lined up, well, 1 person lined up for a question. Are you comfortable with that, Lane? Waiting till the end?
Yes, I'm fine.
Yep.
So yeah, that's probably a major concern at the moment as far as maintenance goes on the venue, and it's something that I am quite strongly trying to get, or trying to keep it under control. It is a health issue, and we just can't let it slip. As far as the service level agreement, which is the agreement we have with council as far as what we're supplying for the funding that we're receiving, July-December period started quiet but came back strong in the last quarter of the year. National touring events were up significantly, with a number of them having been cancelled, events from 2021. Community events remain very strong. They're still up around that 62% of our venue hire, which is great to see. And yeah, definitely getting back to those pre-COVID levels. So looking at where we sit against the service level agreement at the half year mark, we're ahead across all the areas except for the procured events. So they're the events that the event centre would buy in. So we go looking for events to bring to town. It's only on an as needed basis. Our preferred is still to be a venue for hire. There is a certain amount of risk in buying in product, and we financially, don't have a lot of wriggle room as far as taking risks on events. So for community events, we're sitting at 81 against the required 130 for the year, so well over half. Conference meetings, we're sitting at 33 at the moment against 55. While that sounds great being over half, I still think that's quite low. There hasn't been a lot of conference business type meetings, and there's also a lot of competition in town now for venues. There's a lot of venues in town that offer space for free. So we're targeting more the training seminar, 3-4 day business meeting type thing. Not so much the one day, 2 hour type event. But yeah, that would be the only area at the moment where I think, there's room for improvement. National touring, we're sitting on 12 against the required 20. And that's one that may struggle. With what's on the books at the moment, we may struggle to get 20 touring events come through this year. It is, however, very good to see the likes of the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra, the ballet, New Zealand Ballet, those bigger organisations coming through. I think that's probably a direct result from the funding that the government's splashed around during COVID. But it is great. We probably haven't had the orchestra for 10 years now, so it's good to see that back in town. Financial report, it was a very slow period for those first 3 months of the financial year. However, that certainly turned a corner for the last 3 months, and we did end up in a very comfortable position at the end of 2022. Again, the income from Superstar was a major factor in that. So we finished the financial year. We finished the year on 23,000 in profit, roughly 23,646, which was a very nice buffer going into the quieter period of January, February, March. Just in regards to our volunteers, again, can't thank them enough for the work that they do. It was something like 1,150 hours in the first 6 months of the year. That's for the likes of our ushering, gardening, backstage, all the smaller jobs that happen around the venue. We did unfortunately lose one of our technicians, James Wood, who's been with us for 11 years, very much part of the furniture at the event centre, very skilled in his job, but he's decided he wants a change. And unfortunately throughout New Zealand, venues in general have lost a lot of technicians and, that technical expertise from the venues, and it's proving very difficult to find people. I think generally a lot of them put it down to the hours of the job. It's not a job where you can have a 9 to 5 job. You're basically working when everyone else is out enjoying yourself. So it is a hard task, and James had decided that he'd like to look elsewhere. We will miss him. We have a replacement in Simon. Simon has come to us with huge experience, having worked for the Sydney Showgrounds in Australia. Different area of expertise. He's very much audio-visual. But again, with that being what we're looking at developing more into, he's a great fit for what we're trying to achieve at the moment. And he has brought a lot of experience in as far as managing the equipment. So yeah, as far as staffing goes, we are down one still at the moment, and there's still a wee bit of work to be done on what we require in a replacement. We are having discussions at the moment in regards to that, and we'll certainly be looking to employ a replacement in the near future. Our staff, again, they've received praise from many organisations. They're an incredible bunch. They do love to go the extra mile, and exceed expectations basically, and that's the goal. If we can have the clients going away thinking, wow, what a place this is in Ashburton. And we do get that, we get groups from Christchurch coming down, and I wish we had a place like this in Christchurch. I think the size is ideal, not too big, not too small, and we cater basically the same as what you could expect to get in one of the bigger venues. So it's a win for all really. And just in summary, I think going forward throughout the rest of the year, as I say, it's certainly turned a corner. You can feel it. The phones are starting to ring again. There's lots of inquiries coming in. The touring side of it is very slow, but it will come back. And we're just going to be able to ride out pretty much the rest of the year, I think, before that'll change. And very happy with where we're at, and thank you.
Thank you. Roger, Jim, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Just on the balance sheet, I'll talk to the finances more than anything if I can. The revenue was down 80k from the previous year, and that's probably a carryover from the COVID from the previous 2 years. But it's pleasing since the trading date that the trading has been really good. Although there was a book loss of 97k, there was a book entry in the balance sheet, of course, as they do, for 175,000 for depreciation. If this is added back in, you would actually see a 78,000 profit would have been made. The theatre is somewhat reliant on the support we get from you, people in the room, and Lion Trust, the Mid and South Canterbury Trust, and jointly the shows we do with the Variety Theatre. It's so good to have a working relationship with them and the volunteers they actually give to the theatre, because we wouldn't be able to run it if we didn't have that support. Of course, the main objective that the theatre was set up was to do performing shows, and because of the good record of the staff and the facility and the commitment and the support we get from the public, we continue to do well with those revenue streams. If you look at the balance sheet, again, you'd see that we've got a lot of cash at the moment. We've got a strong cash liquidity position. We had debtors of 245,000, we had current liabilities of 138,000, and approximately $100,000 in our working capital. That is extremely good for an organisation like this, but as Roger has alluded, we have got a process of going through and upgrading a lot of things, and currently this financial year we're looking at a Cougar lift which is going to cost us $30,000. The previous one is just doesn't even pass the OSH test, and $12,000 for curtain maintenance. Now, whilst we've got the cash for that, we will apply to the Lion Foundation to see if we can get the funding for that, but if we don't get the funding, we've got the cash reserves to do that. Also, I'd point out that the Trust has accumulated assets of $5.3 million, fully depreciated. This building and equipment would have an estimated value of probably over $14 to 18 million to replace. So there's good reserve in that equity position. Overall, it was actually an extremely good result. Budget is really based on last year's results, adding 4% increase across the board, which fits in line with the rates increase of 6%. One couldn't predict COVID and the loss in patronage we experienced during that period, and it was through the good support of the public that we actually have got back on tour. As Roger's made the comment, the tours haven't started as we would have thought, but we're lucky to have extremely good staff at the venue, good continuity and leadership, and also the same applies for the board. Special mention I'd make of George Brown, who is still extremely active in the role of finances, while being absent currently because of illness. We still get emails with questions about the finances, about what he does. As the board, we are all not getting younger, and this year we've injected some new members on as trustees, and we look at them so we can give some continuity and give them the experiences. Overall, I think it's a good result and hope we can get the support of ADC.
Thank you, Jim. We open to the floor now, gentlemen. Yep. Lane, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, gentlemen. Roger, your feathery friends, the pigeons, did you ever talk to Hayden Tasker? He had some stuff going with lights and lasers and bits and pieces. I'm not sure if it's really going well, but he was doing something with that.
Yeah, I haven't spoken to anyone local. We have employed a guy from Christchurch who does pest control, and we've had him on board for 2 years. He's unfortunately, or the company that he works for is no longer willing to take ours on. I think it's probably got to the point where they can't see any resolve in what they're doing. I've got a meeting with another guy that's looking at taking it over. But the laser light, we have been informed that pigeons aren't affected by them. So you can put, we did have a trial of a laser light up there, and it lasted for about a month and the wind blew it away. It gets very windy up on that top level, and yeah, it didn't last. And that's the same with, we've had kites suggested and the same issue, they'd destroy themselves in the wind. So we've tried netting, we've tried trapping, we've tried poisoning. Oh no, I shouldn't say that. We've tried everything.
Overfeed them, yes.
It just hasn't worked. Like, we've certainly kept the numbers down, but it's still not enough.
Has it been a mistake in the building? Could it have been done better or not?
Like, if you didn't have pigeons, it wouldn't be an issue, but the design of the building, like the height of it, it had to be that high, and I think that's the attraction for the pigeons. It's a secure area up there. It's like a 5-star hotel. Yeah. You've got heating, ducting that they can nest under, and it's laid on for them.
Yeah, thank you. Hamish, would you like to make a comment?
Just briefly, and we're well aware of the pigeon issue across the town, and in fact we were talking to the construction company that's building the new library and civic centre, because they already have pigeon issues inside the building. And we were talking with them about the laser lights, and what I understand is they are effective initially, but the pigeons simply learn where the light is, and their memory is that they then avoid it. So what they're doing inside our build is they have to move the laser lights regularly to try and upset the learned avoidance of the pigeons. So they're very clever, very adept at finding space, and we've got no magic bullet, Roger, but it's definitely an issue that everyone faces. In fact, I heard an extraordinary story from Christchurch and the clean out of Christchurch Cathedral, which has of course been 10 years of no cleaning, and the extraordinary volume of pigeon material. I can't even remember the number. It was just so huge. It was.
I can imagine.
It was a mountain of stuff they took out of there. So it's an issue for many people. We just got to keep at it, I guess.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you. Can you please remind me the service level agreement numbers? Who sets those, and how often do they get reviewed?
It's basically reviewed every year at when we renew the service level agreement, and it's a conversation between council and myself as to what we feel is achievable. I don't think there's ever been any hard and fast rule about the numbers that are set. it was basically set right at the beginning, and then we've adjusted it up as we've been able to, as the venue's grown, basically.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lynette, you have something to ask?
I was just going to ask, because the tourists aren't coming through, is there an opportunity like for you guys to go out and try and focus on local talent, to bring in the younger generation, because they're the future of the theatre? When you look at the older generation, some of them kind of getting a bit, at that other end, do we need to refocus on what we have around here locally?
Yeah, certainly, there's certainly opportunity out there. We haven't probably done a lot with the children. It's been left to the likes of the Big Little Theatre Company and McKennery Children's Theatre. We certainly support those two organisations quite a bit. There's the other one that's coming in on the Ashburton Performing Arts, are now looking at a refocus of what they are doing, which is a competition type thing. It has probably suffered over the last 2 or 3 years, or probably longer than that, 3 or 4 years, with dwindling numbers. So they are looking at changing up what they're doing and how they're going with, what they're going to do with that organisation, possibly turning it into a 2-day South Island wide competition, which would be great. So there is things happening there that we probably aren't leading, but we're certainly assisting them along the way.
Well, that's good, because there just seems to be that demographics. You hear different ones saying there's not a lot there going on for the
kids,
the younger generation, to make them sort of become regulars at events, like the local kids, the bands and different things, whether that could be built up around the theatre.
I definitely agree. There needs to be a focus on, the younger ones being brought through, because they become your older audience and everything.
Because, there's a lot of stuff going on for the older ones. The second question I just had, the car park rental, is that a permanent thing? It's not over a certain period of time?
What was that one, sorry?
The car park rental for the cinema. Do they rent car parks?
Oh, sorry, there's a rental agreement lease agreement with Regent Cinema for those car parks.
And that's permanent?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's part of their resource consent, they have to have those car parks.
Thank you. Phil?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Gents, technology, what would you love in the next year or two as far as technology goes, and what would really improve?
I think where we're probably slipping behind is our sound and lighting in the venue itself. So the sound system, when that was installed 15 years ago, was second-hand then. It has a lifespan, which has probably been exceeded. So that's probably something that I need to have at the front of the agenda. If that fell over, we basically couldn't run the theatre.
Right.
Lighting, the focus there is more in probably getting it converted to more LED based, simply for the cost savings. And then after that, it's the material side of repainting, recarpeting, seats in the auditorium. That'd be the major parts.
Supplementary, if I may.
Yeah, of course.
Weddings, are really pleased to read that they are something that you're sort of stretching into. Do you see that as a growing use of the venue?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Like venue overall, I think there's certainly still room to push more through there, especially in the conference and meeting area. Conferences coming to town, I think, what do you call the economic development part of the council now? Bringing conferences to town, that sort of thing, would be a huge bonus for us. I think where the town suffers with the conferences is an accommodation and being able to sleep. Like our target's always been, conference size of up to 200, and that's more based around accommodating those people that come to town. Yeah, the venue overall, I think, production-wise, I don't know that we'd want to go too many more as far as entertainment events, because you will get to a saturation point where people just can't afford to go to them all.
Yeah.
So it's, I think where we're at there, pre-COVID anyway, was a good number. You don't want to cram a month. We have found that any more than 4 major events a month is too much. But yeah, there's certainly still room there to push more through. And, we do keep looking for those other events and different events too. We don't want to just keep bringing the same. One thing that it started to feel like at the end of last year was the tribute shows. And while they still sell out, like you can put another Ebra show on tomorrow and it'll sell out, which is good. I love it. But we can't just sort of focus on those ones. We need to be looking at bringing other stuff as well, and different genres of stuff.
Thank you. Tony, we just have 2 more questions, and then I've got one at the end. Tony and then Richard, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just brief issue, just a question on, well, not a question, just a comment on the pigeons. They're a major issue around the whole town. It's not just you, the whole CBD, they're in the domain, they're everywhere. But they're a homing pigeon and they'll keep coming back. So that's the biggest issue. So you've got to break the cycle. So they really are a vermin that the town have to deal with, but that's another issue. This question I think has been answered, because I was going to ask what you thought the optimum level of shows you could cater for that would still attract the crowds, because they get to the stage that people run out of money. There's only so many shows they'll go to. But also, does the seating of 499, does that limit some shows that would come to Ashburton? Like, we're not going to build a bigger theatre by any means, but but if we did have a bigger theatre, would we attract more shows?
You probably would. Like they basically work, and we looked at this when the place was being built. There's categories of shows, and to get into that next level, you'd be needing probably 750 to 1,000 seats. That level of complex would be probably far too big for Ashburton as far as your day-to-day. Do you build a theatre of that size for 2 extra events a year, sort of thing, and the extra cost of managing a theatre of that size or building a theatre of that size? The big problem we had, or the reason basically we stayed at the 500 mark, was once you went over that, the fire engineering of the building, had 3 more zeros in front of it. Okay. Fire curtains and all sorts of things. So it was very expensive to go above that 500 mark. And it was felt at the time that, Ashburton, it's better to have a full theatre than a half-full theatre.
That's right.
Thank you.
I'll definitely have the 500.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. The couple of areas, the Bradford room, obviously you alluded to it, that there's a lot more meeting space coming online, and with the Civic Centre coming on, that will put more pressure on it. Have you put some mind thoughts into how you can, because it is a bit of income there coming out of that and predicted to increase. How have you found answers to that? Or repurposing the room, or were there any?
We probably haven't discussed it at board level, but I have been thinking, is it a space that could be turned more into a black box theatre? We do use the foyer space downstairs for smaller arts on tour type shows. The Bradford room has been set up so it can be multi-purpose, like we can put productions up in there, and we have done. I was thinking along the lines of, do we put a tiered seating type arrangement in there so you can do, up to 100 people in a black box theatre arrangement. Doing that would then wipe out probably the ability to hold meetings up there. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, that one. I think at the moment the focus is still on attracting the meetings and the trade seminar, the training seminar type event back into there. We do have a number of organisations doing that, and the multi-day events, which is quite good. So I think that's probably where our focus will still be at the moment.
And other questions around the CapEx. I know you've deferred the floor coverings and deferred the theatre seats. There's a bit of a bow wave coming if 23, 24, there's 100,000 for sound, 100,000 for lighting. Have you put some good thoughts into how you're going to manage that?
Yeah, we have. We've in dialogue with the Mid-South Canterbury Community Trust, and they basically told us they'll come to the tune, and that's why we've sort of deferred it in some respects. We believe there's at least 100,000, and they have indicated to us they'll look at that very favourably. So we think we've got it covered, but Roger's got basically a wish list. But every time you defer it for 6 months, you've got to come back and review it again. So we're back to that stage again. We're looking at lighting is the number one, as he's alluded to, and the sound is the number two thing. Sound and lighting are the two things we've really got to improve.
I think at the moment there's probably still 2, maybe 3 years, for the furnishing side of it. But it's certainly, we're at a point now where we need to start looking at how we're going to address it. It's pointless getting to the point where it's worn out and then start. So I think, Lotto will certainly be one of the organisations that we're targeting, and Mid-South Canterbury Trust, Lion Foundation.
I just have a quick question. Is there any more questions from the team? No, I just have a quick question with regards on the financial report. When I look at like a small line item, confectionery, predicted to generate, I think, actual is 5,700, and it's costing you 4,900. So your margins, there's like you put a 10% margin on chocolate bars, do you, and stuff?
There's very little margin in it.
Yeah, there's no scope for that improving purchasing or anything like that.
Yeah, we don't sell enough to
warrant annoying people.
Yeah.
So are you, when I read your documents, you're looking at perhaps moving, like making more of a thing of the sales of food and cafeteria and bar and that. Is that going to generate more income from that? When you expand your ticket office and stuff.
Yeah, so that was one of those wish lists things.
Yeah. Like, what's the point of doing it? My question is, unless we're not going to generate more revenue, that's basically what I'm asking.
I think, the idea at that time was to try and generate another stream of revenue for the venue. If you go to most theatres now, you go to the Court Theatre, you can buy pizza and sit down and have a beer, and that's where we were focusing at that time. The feeling was that the food waste would probably outweigh any benefit.
Like if you did something like the Court Theatre where they do, you think that there'd be too much, it wouldn't be worth doing, is that?
Yeah.
Have you done canvassing patrons on that, or?
Haven't canvassed, no. I think when you look at the restaurants and the development around the event centre, there's going to be a lot of competition for food. There's a number of restaurants going in around the event centre now, which is brilliant. I love the idea.
Yeah.
And I love what they're developing in the Triangle as far as being an entertainment precinct.
Yeah.
I think my feeling is that we stick to our knitting.
Yeah.
We provide the entertainment and somebody else provides the food.
Yeah. Okay. And I also note, if you'll indulge me, one more question. Under cleaning services and staff wages, cleaning charged as an independent contractor?
We do contract now. We did used to employ our own cleaners, but it just got too difficult to manage them.
So you've got them going up 3%, but really you cannot control that, can you? Because you don't know what they're going to go up. Right. Thank you. I'll save the rest of my questions for another day. Russell, I'll let you if you have anything.
Just very quickly on the food one, is there any thought of doing like a package, because the Triangle's developing, with someone who's going to do something and they're saying, we'll sell a ticket and that gets you a meal and entrance into the theatre and as a combo and working in with that person?
Yeah, I think, discussions will certainly be had once those restaurants are up and running.
Yeah.
I think the idea of being able to go to a show and then have a dessert afterwards sort of thing is very appealing.
Yep.
And I think there's, a huge amount of relationship work that can be done with those businesses that are going in there.
Yep. And it allows you both to do what you're good at, so,
Okay, well, if that's all, thank you, Jim, and thank you, Roger, for coming in. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time, and your well thought out documents and things that we've had an opportunity to look at. So I declare this part of the meeting closed. Thank you.
Thank you.